Graeme, I'm Winslow and I'm an FLP practitioner and a trainer, and today I want to share with you a journey that I'm taking Graeme on. We're going to travel 10 years in the future. He's moving towards retirement age and he wants to know what's happening in his life as he proceeds forwards into retirement. He's also very interested in the planet and what's going on in the world, so we're going to have an overview as well of also what's happening in the world. So I've already relaxed him. I've already taken him forward 10 years, so now we're going to connect back with Graeme and see what insights and information he can connect to in this FLP process. So Graeme, you're now 10 years in the future. What have you connected to? What's here? What's happening in your personal life now? What are you doing?
I'm still working.
Yeah.
But I'm working in the sun.
Yeah.
Still love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm still teaching.
Yeah. What are you teaching?
Teaching a range of hypnotherapy, past life regression, future life progression. And I have this lovely place in the sun.
Yeah.
It's like a complex, and we have students coming in from all over the world for 1 week or 2 week courses. But it's not just hypnosis, there's other tutors here teaching other modalities.
Yeah.
So a lot of holistic work going on.
Yeah. Where
Um,
in the world are you? Where is this warm place in the sun?
on the island of Kos.
That's nice. How did you find that place?
It's really strange because most of my life I never ever wanted to come to Greece, because in a past life, well over 3,500 years ago, I died during a volcanic eruption. But when we started looking at premises that we could get hold of to run these courses, I got attracted more and more and more towards Kos. And interestingly, maybe even spookily for some people, where we're based is just very, very close to the ruins of the ancient sleep clinic from ancient Greece.
Yeah.
But it's a lovely relaxing place, and
So how's your health? How are you feeling there?
I'm feeling really fit, really healthy. Big difference was having the knee operation I needed 9 years ago.
Yeah.
From that, I was able to start exercising again, getting a lot fitter, getting a lot healthier. I'll never run a marathon even though I'm in Greece, but I can walk up the hills, walk out in the countryside, and even walk down to the harbour and jump on my boat and go out for a sail when I want to.
So just let yourself feel those feelings of well-being and health and fitness. Just let your whole being absorb them. Let your cells remember them, know them, feel them. Let that feeling fill your whole body and resonate out. Just feeling those feelings of well-being. How's that feeling now?
It feels good.
And as you look at your own personal life, is there anything else you need to see personally 10 years in the future? That wise you 10 years in the future want to let the present you know anything?
Yeah, one of the things that immediately comes to mind is to really create a fuss with the NHS and get them to get my knee sorted out rather than wasting time.
Yeah.
So that needs to be done.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other wisdom from the future for the present you?
Took a bit longer to get here than it needed to. Need to be more assertive in my search for premises.
Yeah.
And that's going to be easier now that I know where I actually am going to be.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's going to speed things up.
Yeah. And is there anything that you want to look at then, in an overview of the world, what's happening in 10 years? I know that interests you.
There's been a few changes in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
The European Union doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. When did that happen?
That was finally collapsed about four, maybe 5 years ago. Lots of the countries in Europe woke up to the fact that there was an awful lot of corruption and there was an awful lot of people trying to rule them that had no authority. They weren't challengeable, and with so many different cultures, the pressure to try and change everything into one was just too great. And people realised this. I think after the UK left, lots of other countries realised that it could be done. But we still have a free trade agreement with all our neighbours from the UK. But I think my impression is that, everybody's realised that just being in a club of 27, 28 was not as good as being in a club of 180, 190 countries. There's much more trade freedom.
Yeah. What impact's that had now?
Seems to. I get the impression that it's created more stability, less tension.
Yeah.
There's a wider sharing of things, products, and all the rest of it, which seems to have reduced, tension between different parts of the world.
And how do you sense that the average person is these days? What's the overall feeling of people on the planet?
Yeah, there's a lot less fear of things.
Yeah.
And again, I have the impression that, people are becoming more confident, more relaxed, more positive.
That's good.
A lot of what used to be big multinational companies have kind of fallen by the wayside because people were no longer prepared to put up with their attempts to control everything.
Yeah.
I mean, way back 10 years ago, there was a huge outcry about the damage being done to the bee population, and there was petitions all over the world and pressure.
What's happened regarding that?
Well, France, Germany, UK all led the way in banning certain products. And that spread. So that the pesticides and that were being used were banned. And of course that badly affected some of the big multinationals. They lost a lot of profit, but with losing all that profit, even their greedy shareholders seem to wake up to the fact that, if we don't become a little bit more responsible, we're not going to have any profit at all, let alone any income. So it was that acceptance that less might be better, because less than they were getting now was better than nothing at all. The Middle East seems to have settled down a bit. Assad was eventually kicked out of Syria about 5 years ago. A lot of the people have gone back, and the country is slowly and steadily being rebuilt. And interestingly, they're getting a lot of support from Russia, but also from the US and from the NATO countries, and even further afield. Seems that it's kind of difficult to say this. It sounds a bit weird, but it was like governments were beginning to realise that, bullying and all the rest of it wasn't working, and cooperation was needed. And with the greater cooperation, terrorism seems to be dying out. And maybe part of that is because the Muslim fraternity have, I don't know how to describe it, I think woken up is maybe a good description, but they're all getting together and trying to solve the disputes between their different groups, and become more acceptance of other people's beliefs and religions. So it feels calmer. It feels like there's hope. We're only at the beginning, but it just feels like, at long last, maybe people have decided to tread a different path. And certainly quite a number of governments are beginning to wake up to the realization that people power actually exists. And if they don't listen to the voters, to the population, they're not going to survive too long.
Anything else? Just scan around.
Yeah, it's also interesting to note that, for years and years and years, we were bombarded by complete negativity in the press and media. You're always getting tragic, hard luck stories or disasters or whatever, but any good news was never reported. I mean, one of the
now, then?
well, that again, you can see at the start of a sea change. There's a lot more positive good news coming out, and you know, there are still disasters around the world, but it's less of political infighting and kidology and strutting about, you know, peacocks and saber rattling and all that sort of thing. I mean, you know, it's reminiscent of when I was a kid learning history and learning about the saber rattling at the end of the Victorian era by, you know, these empire building countries.
So is there anything of any major significance that you need to see, that you need to look at 10 years in the future? Anything that will be beneficial for you to know now, to bring back to the present time?
Yeah, climate was always an issue 10 years ago. And, you know, from what I was looking at then, it was, I couldn't understand why people had this firm belief that the Earth was static and stable.
Yeah.
Because it never has been.
Yeah.
You know, but people seem to take the view that, you know, they would build houses on land or whatever, and that land or that country would never change. It would always remain the same. And Earth's never been like that. You know, if you look at the Jurassic coast in the south of England, for example, high cliffs full of fossils. Those cliffs used to be the seabed.
Yeah.
So why are people complaining about the sea rising? It's actually dropped massively over eons of time. But, you know, the Earth's not stable, and people are, I think, beginning.
The natural cycle of the Earth.
There is, and people are going to starting to wake up to it. There've been a number of earthquakes, and particularly in the Pacific Rim. There's been the odd tsunami, and, you know, the resultant death and destruction. There's one, I think 4 years ago, there was one which badly affected Sri Lanka and the east coast of India. But that was centred between India and the rest of Asia on the eastern side of India. But something that I'd known for a very long time, but science suddenly became aware of, you know, the latest discovery in the scientific world, or something that had been known for a long time, but this maybe suddenly just woke up to it again, is that the Earth's polarity changes and reverses every 375,000 years. But it's a period of time that takes about 10,000 years to happen. So we're in that period at the moment where the Earth's polarity is changing, which again is having a dramatic effect on climate, tectonic movement, and all the rest of it. You know, we can do all we want about climate control, reducing carbon and everything else, but if you look back 100,000 years, or possibly less than that to the last ice age. At least a third of the planet was covered in ice, and then that melted.
Yeah.
There was a rise in temperature. Carbon situations, carbon in the atmosphere. People are, freaking out about being like 0.5% or something like that. There's been evidence in the Antarctic ice cap of 150, 200,000 years ago. The carbon levels in the atmosphere were something like 15%.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's possibly around about the time when the 100-kilometer long volcano erupted in Siberia. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we could and we were having an effect on the carbon levels in the atmosphere, but nothing that we'd done was ever as serious as the natural events.
Yeah.
Think of things like Krakatoa in the 1800s when that blew. The noise of the explosion was heard over 1,000 miles away. And that spewed out masses of carbon into the atmosphere. In the early 2000s, we had huge earthquakes in Iceland, which stopped aircraft flying for days on end because of the pollution. All of this, we've got to deal with it. We have to live with it and cope with it.
And is it improving there 10 years in the future? What's it like there now?
Well, there's a lot better monitoring of what's going on, so there's much earlier warnings. There was detectors set up in the Pacific after the major tsunami that hit Japan 20 or 30 years ago. But those have been extended. There's other detection devices, so there's a lot more monitoring. They can't stop the events happening, but they certainly can reduce the carnage that comes from them afterwards.
So is there anything else that you need to see in the future? Or is it time to just have a settle back into your own personal future?
No, I think I just get this feeling that I didn't have for a long time during my life, that there's actually hope.
Yeah.
And the hope is spreading, and the positivity is beginning to spread, that we can treat things differently.
Wow,
and lots of groups, some may refer them to spiritual or whatever. I'm not interested in tags, but more and more people are becoming aware of having to concentrate on their needs,
yeah,
and not their wants.
Yeah.
And with the world opening up to trade, perhaps that's going to help, because it's easier to have things shared. To a certain extent, but there's always going to be the rich and there's always going to be the poor. It's just that we can close the gap a lot more by working towards it. But I ain't going to be around much longer now, so there's not much more I can do except maybe write down my ideas, publicise them, and leave them for the future.
Can you see those things being published?
No, I can't see that far into the future. Not at the moment.
So just settling back into your own personal future there, that beautiful place at Kos. Just having another overview of that, just feeling how it feels there.
It's so calm and relaxing here.
Yeah.
And looking back to my very young life in the 60s and early 70s with the hippie communes going around and peace and love, man.
Yeah.
It's not quite like that, but
Yeah.
the happy, positive atmosphere is there. There's just lots and lots of good vibes.
So just allow yourself just to really settle into that feeling. Just allowing your whole being to just rest in it. Knowing what's possible in the future. It's possible now. You've connected to those feelings. They're within you. You're feeling them now in your body. Just allowing them to strengthen, empower, and become a part of you. Strengthening and empowering. And staying connected to those beautiful feelings. We're going to travel back now to the present time. Remembering that beautiful space machine that brought you here. Just taking yourself inside there, settling in there, still connected to those healthy, peaceful, positive feelings. As your time machine now rises up again, rises up to the higher realms, and it starts to travel back now to the present time, going back now to 9 years, 8 years, 7 years, 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, to the present time, and you're still hovering up there. And then allowing your vehicle to come all the way back down now into the present time. All the way back down, back onto that beach, the present time. And then just stepping out onto that sand and feeling how you feel, all those good feelings that you've brought back with you. Those feelings of health and well-being, that fitness. Just walking along that sand, how's that feeling now?
I feel like I could probably jump into a swimming pool and swim 100 lengths.
Wow. So staying connected to those feelings, they are a part of you. And walking back to those steps that we originally came down, and just pausing at the bottom, and knowing that when we get to the top of the steps, you'll be fully alert, back, present moment with all those good feelings. Stepping on to step 1, 2 and 3. Remembering that beautiful cocoon of healing light, love and wisdom that you took with you, bringing it back. Stepping on to step 4, and knowing you'll only be able to open your eyes when all parts are balanced and centered. Happy for this healing, this transformation, for all these good feelings to last. Stepping on to step 5 now, opening your eyes, coming fully back present to this present moment. Well done.
Right, okay. Oh.